Welcome to the Venture Vault. Today's guest, I'm super excited about Tom Dusenberry. Currently, you're at Dusenberry Entertainment, but you do a ton of fun stuff. I just want to read everybody your Twitter bio here, because I think this was the fun way of kind of going over everything. Toys and game guy, focused on digital and social media innovation, STEM programs, flying drones, VR, AR, and a sports fan. I think that's a great way to intro you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Michael.
So I just want to know, like, how did you get into this kind of the game space, but also if you want to tell everybody just a little bit about, your background and your history.
Sure. So I got into the game business because I was a kid that always loved games. So it seemed like it was natural for me to be able to pursue that. And when I got out of school, the first job I got was a job with Parker Brother Games. And I actually started on the loading dock of Parker Brother Games. And then
Oh, cool.
22 years later, I was CEO. So it was one heck of a ride. And I think
Yeah.
that, for me, it was amazing from a point of view that I was able to go through the organization. But more importantly is that games over the last 40 years have just been a growth market year after year after year. And I was able to capitalize on that and take advantage of that. So that's kind of where I came from, and that's why I got into the game business. And but for me, there was really three parts to my career. The first part was Parker Brother Games, and that was learning about everything possible about games because I was in R&D and marketing and
Hmm.
sales, finance and business development. And then the second part was that when Hasbro purchased Parker Brothers, the first half of my career at Hasbro was all based upon innovation and creativity. And I went out and I worked with all the different inventors throughout the world and was able to find new innovation and new creativity that became great games for Parker Brothers. And because of that, that kind of springboarded me into getting an opportunity where I felt that the company should be, and that is in the video game business. And that created Hasbro Interactive. So for a 6-year period of time, we went from my idea of creating a business in Hasbro Interactive to ultimately being about a $200 million business. And at that stage, Hasbro decided that it needed to go back to basics because it had made several acquisitions and
Hmm.
asked me to divest my company so that it could focus on the toy business that it was so good at. And that gave me an opportunity to sell my company and then to springboard myself into Dusenberry Entertainment. And so for the last 20 years, I've really been doing my own stuff as an entrepreneur. And what I do is I like to collaborate and work with others to be able to make businesses happen. So sometimes I run a business, sometimes I'm just in as an advisor, sometimes I'm a consultant. And what the businesses have kind of evolved to now is the fact that I do a lot of work in the licensing area where I
Hmm.
collaborate with other people and then we bring innovation and creativity to big companies and then they license it from us and they then go and make the whole market happen.
Cool. And yeah, I feel like a lot of people don't know, but like, I feel like the video game space is one of the biggest entertainment spaces in the world, right? Like, it's making so much more than the movie space and the TV space. How does I guess, when you talk about games, are you talking about board games, all that stuff? Or are you talking about just video games right now? Because I've actually been purchasing a lot of board games lately, just for like me and my family playing games. Where is that a big separation in the game space, or is it kind of all in one?
Well, it's a great question, and that is, I think I'm a little bit unique compared to almost everybody else in the industry from a point of view that I love and covet board and card games as much as I love and covet mixed reality and
Hmm.
everything in between. But the sweet spot for me currently is in the mobile game area because that
Oh,
seems
nice.
to be the biggest category.
Yeah.
And so that's where I pursue that. But for me, it's my whole focus is on one thing, and that is it's all about the fun. And so, whether it's a board game or a card game, or it's mixed reality or anything in between, my focus is on the consumer experience and being able to create fun. And fun
Hmm.
is really hard to make happen from a point of view of being
Yeah,
able to deliver something that is fun the first time, but then has that repeat capability to say, hey, I want to go back and do it over and over. So there's an art form to that.
for
And,
sure.
I work very hard on whatever projects I work on is the primary focus is all about the fun.
And what are some of the games right now that you're playing that are fun? I'm weird. I feel like I don't play any mobile games. I have an Xbox, a PlayStation. I really want to get my hands on the Apple VR headset and see what they have over there. But what are some of the mobile games you're seeing right now? Because they seem very similar to me. Like, I feel like no one's ever taken that jump. Like, there's a lot of cool looking ones, like, very visual. and fun like little adventure games. What are you playing? What's catching your eye
So
these days?
I'm addicted right now to a mobile game, and it's called Puzzle Match, and
Puzzle match. Okay.
it comes from World Winner. And what's
Okay.
unique about it is it's a little pyramid game, and it doesn't take more than
I'm
two
gonna
or three
download it.
minutes to be able to play. But
Okay.
it has this amazing strategic component to it as it relates to you being able to think three, four, five, six moves ahead of time on what you need to
Hmm.
do to be able to make the puzzle happen.
Yeah.
And so I find that I'm very intrigued by that right now from a point of view of speed of play and also how it's able to capture me to come back over and over. And I do play head to head, but it doesn't matter as much as it does the fulfillment of the accomplishment of being able to solve the puzzle. And
Yeah.
so I really enjoy that right now. Now, beyond that, I also, like you said, I'm spending a lot of time in AR right now. So
Hmm.
I'm doing a lot of experimentation in that area and trying to play different products and try to understand different experiences. But I'm also, I play board games and I'm playing, all those things as well. So to me, it kind of depends on who you're playing with and
Hmm.
what they want to play. And then there's something there for you to be able to enjoy.
Yeah. I love games. I mean, I've been playing games since I was a little kid, and it's crazy to look back at some of the older games you used to play and be like, oh wow, this was so amazing back then. And then you're playing some games today, they're just like a different world almost. What are some of the games that you think almost hold up today, like some board games or even video games and the old school video games? Because I find even watching just old movies, you forget like there wasn't CGI back then. It was like we were really crashing cars in the movies. And I feel like some of these board games and older video games are more, I don't know if I want to say original, but they do have this element of like we're trying something new in a new space, but we're going to use the capabilities we have of the day. And sometimes it's easier to play. I don't know what it is. I've been playing some old, like I love Monopoly as a board game. It's a lot of fun just with family members. Sometimes it gets a little heated, but are there any games that you think hold up a lot today?
Well, the perfect example of that, Michael, is like GoldenEye from the
Yes.
Nintendo
It's
64
great.
era.
Yeah.
We still go back to that game. There was something so special about that, right?
Yeah.
And so there are products like that. Now, it's interesting that you talk about Monopoly because Monopoly is a classic game and it seems like it's played by everybody. The
Yeah.
number one game in the market right now is Monopoly Go. And
Oh,
that's amazing. In 9 months, a little tiny mobile game with Monopoly on it did over $1 billion in revenues.
whoa.
It's
Really?
staggering. It really is truly staggering what you're capable of doing right now.
Mhm.
So the one point that you made earlier that I agree with is that people don't understand that there's been a media shift, and that
Mhm.
sea shift really is the fact that if you take the game business, so what I'm talking about is mobile games, PC games, and video games and put them together, they're a $200 billion business.
It's
If you
wild.
take music, books, toys, and put them all together, they're not as big as what
Mhm.
games are. So it's really the killer media. And
Yeah.
people need to pay attention to the fact that there's probably something for everyone. It just depends on what platform you want to be on and what the consumer experience is for you to be able to play.
That's crazy that Monopoly Go is doing like $1 billion. That's absolutely insane. Because I think I've played the Monopoly. Is it the card game that's similar to Monopoly Go, right? Where you're kind of like it's a little
Yes.
quicker. You own some properties. You're kind of flipping cards. I gotta try it again. I guess I gotta download it on my phone. I got a lot of games to download.
Well,
Um,
on the other hand, you look at Magic the Gathering, which is,
mhm.
a two-player game. It's $1 billion business as well.
It's crazy.
So, you look at these like, games that have been around for 20 and 30 years, when they're reinvented and they keep that audience, they can
Mhm.
be, mega billion-dollar businesses.
Where do you think the game industry is going? Because we're getting. I mean, I keep talking about the Apple headset. It's I think reviews are just coming out right now. It looks a lot of fun. I don't know the capabilities of it yet. I don't know if people are going to enjoy it. But where do you see? I guess we can go with casual gamers. Where does that industry go? Because I think a lot now. I mean, there's a lot of educational games. Kids are playing games at a young age and really learning it. But where does it go from here? Like, where do you see the next 10 years go with games?
I really think that we're beginning to see the golden era of games. And what I mean by that is really what you're talking about, and that is augmented reality.
Hmm.
We've been pursuing and chasing augmented reality and virtual reality for 20 years.
Yeah, it feels like a
So
long time.
I truly believe between what MetaQuest is doing and then ultimately what Apple is doing with Vision Pro will
Mhm.
really change the world. And the games will lead that change in the world. And the breakthrough from my perspective on the Apple Vision Pro is not only the technologies and the immersion that they have, but the ability to see through the screen and to be able to see out and what's going
Yeah.
on, because it's been such a big obstacle. And Apple, in its own special way, was able to address that and resolve that issue. And don't get me wrong, it's not for the mass market right now at
No, not yet.
$3,500. But
Yeah.
mark my word, it's no different than what the iPhone was or what the watch was. They start out at a high end because they have a consumer
Yeah.
experience that they want. And as they attract that audience, they'll also be able to get the price down to the point that everybody will be able to purchase it.
Yeah, I want to get my hands on one just to play around with it, even if I can go into the store and play with it. Seems great with the pass through. Um, I'm just gonna be amazed by it because I love playing games, and also it seems like you can really use it for this, right? Like if I have a screen, I have a screen right behind my camera. I have a screen here. It probably seems like I could pop up multiple screens everywhere. But yeah, the mixed reality, and I've played around with a few of the headsets before. The thing that seemed, I guess, is like a gamer, I guess seemed a little slow. Everything was like, it took me a while to get into the game because it had to load and had to do all this. And hopefully we see a lot of those processing speeds move up a little bit. But yeah, the gaming world is just wild. Are there any board games right now or anything that's really kind of like, because I've seen a lot of these new like fun drinking games, you know, where everybody's out playing the drinking games. They're okay for like maybe one time you play them, but are there any new board games that you're playing or you've kind of seen like change up a little bit? Because I think everybody kind of follows the same formula and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of new inventions in the board game space.
I think that what I think will happen in the board game business is that tabletop games are very popular, as you
Hmm.
talk about. And to me, I think what will happen is that that'll evolve to some type of interactive or electronic type of an experience that'll deepen the immersion in the story. And other than virtual reality, I do think that tabletop electronic type products will be the other big explosive area,
Yeah.
because I do think that they're, even though games can be really fun from a single point of view, there's nothing like the vicarious thrill of bankrupting your buddy in Monopoly.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing it'll be if you're like playing Risk and you're, marching through all the different continents with your opponent there and having all this immersive experience being able to go on as well. I think will really heighten the entire gameplay experience.
And like, all right, so say, you know, I love like thinking about businesses and making businesses. I have my own product company. I sell Dope Dog, it's CBD dog treats. I have an agency. I have all this stuff, and I'm always thinking about, you know, what could be next. And the gaming space seems very intimidating to get into. Is it a hard space if you have an idea to execute, say, on a tabletop game or a card game, or even developing a mobile game?
So that's a complicated question depending on what format you're looking at. If
Yeah.
you're wanting to do a video game, you better have $20 million to get
Yeah.
started. If you have a mobile game, you probably need $1 to $3 million to get started. And if you want to do a board game, you probably need $50,000 to $100,000 to get
Okay.
started. That's just kind of the scale. From a board game point of view, if you're a designer, I think you should really work hard on trying to interpret your game from a paper perspective,
Hmm.
because what that'll do is that'll prove out a lot of things from a cost effective perspective before you have to start to do additional programming. And one of the greatest games of all time is Civilization, and the designer behind that is Sid Meier. And Sid
Hmm.
Meier is a 2D flat board game developer and designer, that he designs his product, and then he has these resources that come and then they take it and make it interactive. So I do think that there's something really valuable from a point of view of game design and fun, from a point of view of starting with paper and seeing if it works out or not.
Yeah. Have you made any games yourself? Have you developed any games personally?
I consider myself a collaborator, but
Okay.
I haven't really invented a specific game.
Yeah, because I see, I just, you know, I go to Target and I walk through the aisles and I'm looking at all the games. And, you know, Christmas was, you know, a few months ago and I was trying to find some games to play with. And there's like some fun quiz games and some of these other board games, but it doesn't seem like there's, do you remember that one live quiz show mobile game that was out for a long,
Sure. Oh goodness.
I can't even remember what it was, but it was like a live quiz game.
HQ trivia.
Yes, yes, HQ trivia. I remember that just took over. Everybody was playing. It's like everybody got an alert. Everybody's taking out their phone to go try to win the $1 million or whatever it is. I wish there were more games like that where it's like a live tune in. Let's all play this game together, because I think that's what's missing with a lot of it, where it seems like the culture kind of moves. And it's like some people play this game, some people play that game, but it's nice to when you know would go back to like a GoldenEye era, everybody would be playing GoldenEye because that'd be the only game that came out, you know, in the last 6 months. You're like, I gotta get this game. I wish more games were more collaborative like that HQ game. And they went out of business. I think maybe they're giving away too much money.
Yeah, I think that I agree, but I think that that boat has sailed, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's not a lot different than TV. It used to be that
Yeah.
if you wanted to watch the news, you had three channels to watch it.
Yeah.
Now you have hundreds of channels. It's
Hmm.
kind of the same way in the game industry. There's just so many options and there's so many different ways to
I know.
play. It's hard to get everybody to coalesce behind one thing.
Yeah, but it is weird because you see where all the ad money's going for television. It's going to like live sports or presidential debates. People are paying money to go on there, or the Super Bowl. And I just wonder if maybe HQ was too far ahead of its time for a lot of people, because I remember, like you'd be at a coffee shop and all of a sudden everybody would get alerts and you'd just see everybody trying to play trivia games right there.
Yeah, I agree with that. Unfortunately, the founder, it overwhelmed him and
Yeah.
it didn't work out so well for him. And
Yeah.
I think that there's a big part of that as it relates to being able to uh, use technology to be able to, make things happen. And so I do agree with you that I think if you're going to scale up, you're going to have the solid technology to be able to allow it.
Yeah. What are some of the because I know you do the drones and all that stuff. What are some of the fun things that you've seen with the drone technology lately? Because I think that's I have a drone. I played with it a few times and it was kind of, I didn't use it as much, but I see it now, becoming like fireworks and all this stuff. But with the drones, even with a MetaQuest, like if you could fly a drone with the MetaQuest and be like immersed in it, do you see anything in that space at all?
I love the drone business. I think that it's kind of like relevant from the point of view that you always hear about drones in
Yeah.
military and other applications. So from a consumer product perspective, it seems to make a lot of sense. What I find is that drones have different types of capabilities. If you have a
Hmm.
one-channel drone, it can go up and down. If you have a
Yep.
four-channel drone, you can go any place that you want, and there's everything in between that. So to me, what I find is that the drones are really good from a point of view of being able to have a very broad area to be able to play because your drone can go a long way and come back. And I also think that eventually what will happen is that augmented reality will become part of drones as well,
Mm,
so that it'll not only be a experience with the drone, but it'll also be all these visuals that go with it to making a spectacular experience because of what the drone is creating.
yeah. Yeah. Drones are a lot of fun. They're just it's always like I don't know what to do with the footage afterwards. You're taking pictures and doing all that stuff, but it's always a lot of fun. And just going back to the games, is it like to make a game popular these days? Is it have to do with more about the actual game, or is it just similar to like where HQ kind of took over and it became this viral success? Because obviously, I didn't know Monopoly Go was doing $1 billion, and I would never even expect it because you go on the App Store and you're just like, oh, what game should I play? But does it have a big factor these days, or are people just willing to play any game because it almost seems free with Apple Arcade or a lot of these things now on Netflix? They have little mobile games as well. Um,
From a game industry guy's point of view, there's two key things that you have to make a successful game. One is that it needs to be fun, and
yeah.
so that's the development process, and you have to really work hard at that. You have to understand your consumer, and two is your game has to find an audience,
Hmm.
and so that becomes critical, and that's why a lot of people use brands because they all of a sudden have some awareness when they start to do
Yeah.
that. And once you get your product out into the marketplace, what you have to do is you need to be able to do two things. You need to acquire new customers that are coming in all the time. And if you do acquire, then you have to retain that customer as long as you possibly can. So
Mm-hmm.
your game almost becomes a living, breathing type of a product from a point of view that you're having to update and refresh and to continue that person like on HQ Trivia to say, oh man, this was so much fun, I have to come back and do it
Yeah.
again. And so to me, that's why the business has become so segmented is the fact that you can create the fun game, but then you have to find that audience, and then it's really key to keep that audience. And what we're finding in today's market is that if you like are a Call of Duty fan, or if you're a Battlefield type of a fan,
Mm-hmm.
these companies are doing everything possible to keep you within that universe, and they do
Yes.
not want you to try a new game because that audience is leaving their game and going to something else, and
Mm-hmm.
then they lose all that money. So
So
it's really changed where it used to be all about new. I can't wait
yeah,
for the new
yeah,
product to come out. Now it's all about what the next edition is going to
yeah.
be, and what's the story going to go to next.
Those
So it's just
microtransactions.
become a mega media type of a situation.
So with for example, like I was on vacation and I was like, oh, let's all play Word with Friends, the little Scrabble game.
Yeah,
I found it overwhelming with ads. Everything had ads, and it kind of like made me like, oh, I don't want to like watch this ad. And it's like it wants you to pay so you don't have to watch the ads. And I felt like that was like pushed me away a little bit. Like I'd rather pay $6.99 for the app and never have to see ads or not have to upgrade. And when you get Call of Duty, obviously there's the microtransactions on a lot of games now. Everybody's like upselling you like the gear and if you're playing Madden, like buy this players for your fantasy team on Madden. But is that where the game industry thinks they're going to continue making all the revenue from? Because it is a little annoying as a consumer.
so Puzzle Match, the reason I love it is it's zero ads,
Okay, good.
zero.
Okay, I like that. I have it downloaded
And
right now on my
never
phone.
interrupted by an ad. And I always am critical. They should have some ads in there from my
Yeah.
perspective. But it's the power of free. And
Hmm.
that is that if you want something for free, the person that's giving it to you has to make some money somehow. So they
Sure.
put the advertising in. Now, to me, here again, it's not only you need to be a good game designer, but you also have to have an ability to understand where there are proper pauses in the game and what the appropriate amount of ads should be before you go back to gameplay. So you as a gamer, if you're going to play 3 or 4 minutes of game and then all of a sudden have 3 or 4 minutes of advertising, you'll probably go on to something else.
Hmm.
Whereas if you have 3 or 4 minutes of gameplay and then you have 15 seconds of an alert about a new brand, you're probably willing to go through that and then continue on with the game. So to me, it's the designer's responsibility to be able to incorporate the proper amount of ads into the gameplay experience so that it's like a natural break for you as a game
Hmm.
player. You get the advertising through, and then you get back to gameplay because everything is about life of the player.
Yeah.
The longer you keep them in there, the longer they can be. And so maybe less ads keeps them longer, and you get more ads from a
Because they're
longevity point of
yeah, because they're playing longer. Yeah. It seemed over like every game I downloaded, it's like, even maybe there's a Monopoly game with ads and all these games, and it felt like please let me remove all these ads. Because I play a lot of console games. And, there's not ads really.
view. Right,
There's like
right.
microtransactions, like you got to
Right, they want you
upgrade
to
your
do
gear.
in app purchases.
Yeah, which I guess it's a different form of it, but yeah, I guess you're paying a bigger price for the game. It's longer development, higher price, but yeah,
It's
it's
the it's the power of free,
yep.
unfortunately, and that is if you're going to get it for free, you're going to have to get some advertising.
Hmm. And what do you think about the like subscription model with Apple, or even I know on like the console, I think there's like EA Play where you can subscribe and get like free access to some of the games. Is that working in the game space?
If it will work ultimately, it's going to
Yeah.
take some time. Just like when we used to have to go to GameStop to buy our
Yeah.
games, you don't do that. You just download them now.
Yeah.
And so, streaming is the mother lode. It's the promise. So no
Hmm.
question about it. And so it will take some time for everybody to get used to it and get the flow going. But in my opinion, within 5 years, the only thing you do is streaming games.
Only, yeah, because streaming games, and even with the Xbox platform, they have. I mean, this is streaming to another device. I can play on my iPad. I've seen people play on their Meta Quest. But yeah, it's definitely going that route. And yeah, I'm a big console guy, so I'm gonna try to play the puzzle game you recommended. I'm gonna download Monopoly Go, see if maybe my wife can play with me. It definitely seems fun. Are there anything else you want to talk about? Any other games on your horizon that you're playing that you can recommend to some people?
Well, the other thing that we didn't talk about is TV game shows is really hot right now.
Oh,
And it's just another example of how games can continue to extend. And it seems
yeah.
like if you turn on the TV now, every single network has some strategy as it relates to
Yes.
game shows.
That's so
And there
true.
again, it's just another extension of it's all about the fun, it's finding an audience, and then it's
Hmm.
cost effective for them to be able to do those shows. So to me, that's another area that's kind of like the promised land from a point of view that, it's going to continue to grow and emerge.
I didn't think
And
about
then I
that.
see,
Yeah.
these huge companies like Apple, like Netflix, like Amazon,
Hmm.
they're going to have to ultimately be major players in the game business. And
Yeah.
what does that do with the independent game developers down the road? They're either going to get gobbled up or they're going to really
Hmm.
find a challenge to be able to compete against these mega huge media companies.
Yeah, because there's a lot of subscription. I mean, I have an iPhone, so I have the Apple whatever Game Center subscription where I can get unlimited games basically in the Apple Arcade. They're fun, but I always feel like they're geared towards a younger audience sometimes, and they don't seem. Some of them are fun. Some of the puzzle games are fun. I know there's like a car one where you have to like get all these cars everywhere. But yeah, the game show thing is interesting too because I was like, as you're talking, I'm like, Netflix definitely just came out with a game show. I think all the other networks have game shows on all the time. I mean, Wheel of Fortune is still on the air. Jeopardy's still on the air. So yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, the game world is bigger than expected, I guess. But Tom, I appreciate you coming on today. And everybody can find you at your website, or is Twitter better? Where's a
Yeah,
good spot for
if
everybody?
you want to engage with me, my email is tom@tomdusenberry.com, and my website is Dusenberry Entertainment.
Great. I appreciate you coming on today. Thanks so much.
Michael, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks.